everybody, and welcome back to another Squatting Quads video. Today we have something a little bit different. We have a review of the Flywoo FlyLens85. Now first of all, I need to have a disclaimer. Big thanks to my homies over there for hooking me up with this quad. A few housekeeping things out of the way. First of all, I am not paid for this review. I have full editorial control over this review. I have no talking points that I have to hit in this review, and nobody has seen this review until you have. Everything that goes out in this review is 100% truthful, and nobody has in any way interfered with my thoughts, except sometimes for Mrs. Quads. But that's another story entirely. So roll some credits or do something and let's get into it. So we'll give it a few brief technical specifications first of all, just so everybody knows what we're talking about. But this review is not going to be a very technical review. I prefer the touch and feel aspect of reviews rather than reading spec sheets. But first of all, the Flywoo FlyLens85 is a 2S brushless tiny whoop. It has ducks on it, so it can be flown safely around people. And the version that I was sent was the DJI O3 version, which means it will record up to 4K in 120 frames per second. Now, the O4 unit is phenomenal for recording interactions with people that you can put on social media for businesses and community groups and whatever you want, your friends, your family, whatever. And the brilliant thing with this drone is it's classed as a tiny one, which basically means it's got ducks and it's safe. It's a pusher as well, so you've got that little bit of extra oomph with it. What mine came with was 1000 milliamp 2S, and that came in at an all-up weight of 143 grams with the heaviest battery available, the 1000 mAh 2S. Now, that brings us to the first issue that we have with this quad. If we look at the battery, it doesn't say that it's an LIHV, a high voltage lipo. It just says that it's a lipo. There is nothing on the battery whatsoever that says this is high voltage charged to 4.35 volts. And I didn't. I flew it at 4.2 volts and I was getting shocking flight times. And I was looking at everybody else's reviews who've had this before me, and I thought, something ain't right. So I reached out to a contact in Flywoo and I said, what's going on? And they came back to me and they said, it's a HV. I said, are you sure about this? Because there's no markings on it anywhere and I'd rather not burn my house down. And Flywoo said, because of some sort of regulation or something along those lines, they don't put on that it's a HV. All of the Explorer range of batteries from Flywoo are LIHV and should be charged up to 4.35. Any other battery from Flywoo that isn't an Explorer series, do not charge it to 4.35 volts or you will burn your house down. That is a bad thing. Got it out of the way. I took it out for a few tests, or a few more tests, should one say, and I was having issues with it sort of jerking out of the way. Now, all the other reviewers have put out this review that it's absolutely perfect and there's no problems with it and it's the best quad ever. Well, it's not, let's not get into that aspect of rating things the best quad ever. That's for Bot Grinder to bring up, not me. A lot of reviewers have put out there how good this is, it's amazing, it's out of this world, and I was having real problems with it and I wasn't quite sure why. It kept jerking and drifting and doing really weird things. So I thought, well, the first thing we'll do is we'll change the props, and I initially changed to 4-bladed props, the Gemfan Hulkies, and that fixed all the problems, which was phenomenal. But I thought, well, it's a bit of an issue if you're a bit of a newbie and you don't understand and you're thinking this might be how it should be. So I did look at the props and they looked okay, and then I switched back to the bi-blades that came with it because you get a few sets with it in the box and it flies okay on the other. So there must have been an issue with the props. But again, this is a real touch feelings review, and I could just say to you that it flew brilliant on the second set of props and not mention the first set. And I don't want to do that. I want to be honest with you, because if you come across this problem, obviously like the whole battery issue, there's lots of people on Facebook that I've been helping who are like, what? It isn't a HV, what are you talking about? And then they go away and they'll send an email to Flywoo and then they'll post back, oh yes, you were right, it is, isn't it? So that's the main thing I think of this review, actually, to be fair, is that these batteries coming out from Flywoo with the Explorer series on are HVs. So we fixed that. We fixed the dodgy flight characteristics is the best way to explain it, and we fixed the the battery, or lack of. And then the next problem we had was the GPS wasn't getting a lock. So I got a cable, I downloaded the Betafly app for Android, and I plugged a cable into my phone and I let it power up without the receiver on. Eventually we got a full lock and everything was brilliant. I took it back to the field and I just powered it on slightly differently. Because everything's so small and compact and there's radio waves bouncing off each other, what I did is I turned my goggles on, I then turned the quad on and I left it for about a minute because it was lovely and cool outside, so there was cool air cooling down, not a problem. And then I turned my radio on and I got 7 or 8 satellites locked fairly quickly without too much of an issue. I did try a return to home test and it went a little bit off where it should have done, so I cancelled it. And I haven't had time to do a full test, but I've got no question in my mind now. If I just warm it up a little bit, it's a bit of a pain, but it's with such a small quad and a nano GPS receiver like that, there's always going to be a compromise. Don't call that a problem because I don't think it is a problem. It's just a compromise. So we've got the GPS working, we've got the batteries working, we've got the flight characteristics working. So we went out and we did a few flights in a few different places. So we tried the tree and we ripped around the tree like we would with the 5-inch, and it did that brilliantly. Obviously, because it's got ducts on it and you've got only 2-inch props, when you come out of a split S or you come out of a power loop, you do drop like a stone, and if you hit your own wake, it does cause a problem, but that's just the type of quad it is, and it's not really designed to be flown like a 5-inch. But if you want to fly it like a 5-inch, as I've shown in this review, you can indeed fly it like a 5-inch. Then at the field, we decided to try and fly tranquil and through the middle of the trees and the branches, and it did that absolutely brilliantly. Fantastic. We then took it to a local park, and this is, I think, where these things really excel. Because it weighs 143 grams, it's got ducts on it, and it's only got 2-inch props. Flying it around people, first of all, is totally legal. I mean, so you can fly things over people that's under 249 grams as long as it's not a crowd. The air navigation order does state you can't fly it in a way that will recklessly hurt or injure people or property. So obviously you can't be doing 200, 300, 400 foot dives into the middle of a park next to people, because that is reckless. But you can do cinematic flying around people, around like city centres and stuff, obviously, again, making sure you're not reckless. So that's where it really excels. So we took it to the park and we did some flying. Then there's a little statue that's just around the corner from there, so we did a little bit of flying around this statue type thing. I don't know what it is. If you know what this is, I don't know. I ain't got a clue. And then we tried a little bit of high flying above these high-rise block of flats. Again, not a problem for it. So I would say there are a few quirks with this quad. And like I say, I could get into like really technical specs and it does this and it does, but you've all seen it fly. You've all seen the sort of professional reviewers review it, and it's good that somebody else who's not a professional reviewer gets to get a unit and give you a real honest review, because, you know, I've got, like I say, there's no editorial control going on. What I say is entirely on me. So that's why I've been completely brutally honest with, first of all, how the batteries are labelled, second, the issue with the first set of props, and third, with the issue with the GPS. And what I could just say is I ignore most of that, I jump to the end and say, look at all these flights, it's brilliant, isn't it? But that's not what we're about here. We're about being honest, because ultimately these things cost a lot of money, and this is your hard-earned money, and I don't want to recommend something that I wouldn't fly personally myself. Some people have suggested, oh, it's not a problem if the GPS doesn't work, just don't fly it very far. The problem is it's got an O3 air unit on it, and these things are worth a pretty penny. If you want to fly it, say, over buildings, which is again totally legal, and you're not being reckless because you've got the ducts on. Again, not being reckless, what you want is that GPS to work, to know that if you fly over a building, it's not just going to drop. It's going to come back to you if there are signal interference issues. The version I've got has got ELRS on it, so the chance of any sort of issues is fairly minute. But the thing is, with quads and FPV, there is always that possible chance that something will happen. So it's really important to have that GPS there to make sure that if anything bad does happen, you're not going to lose an O3 air unit. What I would recommend is, if you are flying say around buildings and city centres, the LEDs that come with it, you can put on a switch on your controller and turn those off, and that stops other people getting distracted by it, which keeps you from being accused of being reckless. So one other thing I did try is some GNB2S HV lipos. I tried a 850 pack, which has a 120C rating, a 720 pack, which has a 200C rating, and a 660 pack, which has a 180 rating. The 850 and the 720 fit the included battery adapters, but the 660 doesn't, so you will need to find something to 3D print in order to make it fit, because the adapters that come with it are specifically made for Flywoo shaped and sized batteries. And there are a few designs out there available to 3D print. I did intend to include it in this review. Unfortunately, when I tried to 3D print it, it didn't actually work. I know why, I know how to fix it. I just haven't had the time to reprint it to show you. Out of those 3 batteries, if you were going to buy any of them, I would recommend the 720 200C above the others. The 850, I don't know if it's mislabeled, but it just didn't seem to have anywhere near the voltage of the 720, and the 660 I haven't actually tried yet. So out of those 3, I can give a genuine recommendation to the 720. The 850, I'm going to need to have a closer look at. I'm not sure what's going on with that. And the 660, I just haven't had a chance to fly. Flywoo do some 500 and 750 packs, but the one sent to me were the 1000s. What I have noticed is I've been flying the 720 pack for the last few days, and yesterday I actually tried the 1000 again, and I noticed how much heavier it is. And that's brilliant for cinematic flying because you're more planted. You can feel exactly where you're going and everything's a lot easier. But with the more agile style flying, you're really going to want that GNB 720 or potentially Flywoo's own 750 2S. My biggest recommendation is if you're going to buy one of these, make sure you get an ND filter for the O3A unit. One, that means that you can always have really nice filming regardless of the conditions, and 2, it also means that that camera is protected. That camera is really expensive, and if you are going to crash it, you do want some protection on it. So the unit that I got is the FlyLens85. It's got the O3, it's got GPS, and it's got ELRS in there. And personally, if I was going to recommend any of them, I would recommend this particular build that I've got because it does everything. And for a shade over 140 grams, you have one of the best cameras out there that isn't a GoPro literally in your pocket while you're walking around, and you can do what Bot Grinder does. You can fly it down the subway, you can fly it, you know, in department stores or whatever. You can fly it anywhere because it's so quiet, it's so capable, and it's so safe. And that's the main thing with it. So it's been a pleasure to put this first proper review together for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and share this video so that we can continue to grow, and potentially other manufacturers will send us things in order for us to review them too. But just bear in mind, if you do, the review is always going to be honest, and if there are any problems with it whatsoever, they will be included in the review, because I did make, and again, I make no shame or attempt to hide what happened last summer. Ultimately, as a fairly new pilot with a fairly low following, I was sexed up by MEPS to give a positive review, and in return they would give me free things, and I thought, brilliant, that's my way of making this channel grow. Other reviewers are going to throw things at me, and yeah, and it's a wrong way about going about things, and it was a really hard lesson to learn. But learn that we do, and I think that's the main thing. Learn and grow together, I think is the main way that we should look at that. I made a mistake, I've learned from the mistake, I now have this chance of redemption, if you like, and in this redemption I am going to be brutally honest. I've been brutally honest. I would probably say, in summary, this is probably the best quad for a newbie. However, it may not be newbie friendly if you get one that has the issues that I have. And it is really important to note that looking at other people's quads and looking at other people's reviews, not everybody has had the same issues that I've had. Some people have had ones that have worked perfectly from the second that they've received them, and that's brilliant. But just like with anything, sometimes that isn't the case. So this is what could go wrong. I probably got the worst one possible, but that's enabled me to give the most honest review possible. I've been blabbering for far too long. Buy one of these. I have no affiliate link, so there's no link below, but if you want a link, I'll let you know. I've got no affiliate link. I've got no intention of making anything from this video. I'd also recommend, if you are going to get one, to get the GNB 720-200C. That was actually a recommendation from Barry Morgan FPV, of whom we have an interview coming real soon on the channel, so please stay tuned for that. And if you'd like an interview with us in our community spotlight, drop us an email at team@squadquads.co.uk and we will add you to our list. You've all been amazing. I've been Quads. Peace.